Hello, folks, and welcome to another Wacky, Weird, or Wonderful, a playlist for which we have definitely defined the criteria well for why it exists and how the games are being covered. Today, I am ready. I have my coffee, I have my Xbox One Elite controller, I have my bicycle multi tool for some reason, in case I need it. What do you think, Blinky? And of course, as always, I have Blinky with me as well, helping out, lending her unique viewpoints. She'll let you know if she doesn't like something. Isn't that right, Blinky? She doesn't like something. Didn't even answer. Today we're going to be looking at some Namco Bandai arcade classics from the 80s that have been released on Steam. These are not new releases. They've been up there, I believe, about a year, at least in the case of Galaga anyway. And they're currently on sale at the moment, which is why we're highlighting them, for about 99 cents each, or you can get a multi-pack of 3 of them, which we'll cover in the video. Enjoy! Okay, let's take a look at Dig Dug, developed by Namco in Japan in 1982 and released by Atari in the rest of the world. It is a game where the objective is to eliminate underground dwelling monsters, you can see them on screen, by inflating them with your air pump until they explode or dropping a rock on them. Wow, this is... Wow, they let kids play this. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the options first, because there's some cool stuff I want to show you. So look at this options screen, look at the rounded edges around the corners and the large fonts that are everywhere. And this kind of artwork here, this is stuff from the arcade cabinet. This is original artwork, it looks like. And this looks to me like it's been developed for you to be able to obviously play on your normal computer, but also on your home theater PC, on your TV maybe. But also there are tons of options to be able to let you actually effectively mount this in an arcade machine if you wanted to do that and make it look like an old school machine. And that is such a cool touch, which I will show you now in the settings. First of all, under display, we can adjust the screen size with the WASD keys. We can adjust the screen position, we can zoom in and out. Now we can do something cool also, like adjust the scan lines. So if I press V, you can see I'm adding more scan lines to the image in the center there. Personally, I'm not going to use that while I play because, you know, I feel like that while these games are cool, a certain amount of modernization helps to make them more playable nowadays. But if you did want to mount this in an arcade cabinet, you could really make it look like you had a big old CRT in there as well. So that's really cool. But a further cool touch as well, look around the edges of the screen. As I press enter, I can change the background images. Those are original images from the arcade machine, at least I think so, because obviously you have to compensate for the fact that we have a different aspect ratio, different widescreen aspect ratio available now on our modern machines. So that is a really cool touch. Again, pointing towards this being something that is set up for you to be able to mount in an arcade in an arcade machine with a modern LCD stored in it, which is really cool. So continuing, I confirm that. Continuing to look at the options, if I go back in and go to sound, there's some other cool stuff as well. Sound quality is standard by default, but you can also boost the high frequencies, the bassy stuff. You can boost high but cut mid. You can boost high, cut mid to, I guess, a different version of that. You can boost the low frequencies and you can reduce the mid frequencies. You can do unadjusted and back to standard. The whole idea of that is to be able to produce a sound that is true to maybe that boxy sound that would have been produced by an old speaker stuck inside of an arcade machine. Go look at an image now on Google of a Galaga machine and you'll see what I mean. Down here you can you can change the reverb length and the reverb depth. Again, all designed to make you be able to produce the sound that you want to produce if you're going for that original arcade experience. Again, I have to highlight, look at these rounded edges here, just like in an arcade machine. Really cool. Well done, Namco. Also, a nice feature as well is the sound test. You can go through various sound effects and music from the game. And there are lots of them, which is really cool. I'll just restore the default settings to get rid of the warning that we keep getting as we back out of settings. So those are the sound settings. Again, please take note of the effort that has gone in there to reproduce as close as possible to an arcade experience as you could get. Controls are here. Invert up and down is the only options, or go back to default settings. Pretty cool. Game settings. We can turn a level select on at the start, which I've turned on. That gives me the warning that you see every so often, and it won't allow your score to be ranked because you have level select on. So starting lives can be adjusted. The score threshold to get an extra life can also be adjusted. You can change the version between the new and the old version, and you can also turn on a cool self-test screen, which the original arcade cabinet would have had when it was turned on. Again, folks, this is about if you're putting this inside an arcade machine, that when somebody turns it on, not only do they see and hear an original experience, they also get an actual startup screen. It's like a self-diagnostic test. It's actually really cool. Do check it out. It's like the machine self-testing itself. You reset the high score and restore your default settings. Excellent stuff. Okay, let's take a look at some gameplay. Here we go. Awesome sound. Just the right amount of modern tweaking to the sound, I think. Okay, let's try to not immediately get killed. Okay, that is brutal, huh? Whoa, just in time, just in time. So, like many of these games from the 80s, a simple design, but with an addictive... Oh shit. And also just the right amount of difficulty. Let's keep going. I want this dragon. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Okay. There is nothing easy about these games. Gotcha. Yeah, boy. Oh, just in time. I keep trying to get too close to them, but I forgot my pump extends much further than I thought. That's what she said. Oh my god. This boy's all over me. Bugger off. Now let's take a look at Galaga. Galaga, of course, released way back in 1981, as always by Namco in Japan and Midway in North America. Not sure who the distributor was outside of North America. Anyway, it's the sequel to 1979's Galaxian, also a very well-known game. And the objective of Galaga is to score as many points as possible by destroying the insect-like enemies that you can see at the top of your screen now. You can move just left and right. We'll take the quickest of look at the options because we've already covered them in depth. The only thing I really want to show you under display, again, is the options to change the artwork and to showcase the artwork around the edge of the screen, because it's really worth doing, because a lot of effort has been put into placing that stuff there. There is also the same sound, scan line options, and other options that I showed you in the Dig Dug video. So if you want to see the full intro into the options, and I really recommend you spend a few minutes doing that if you skipped it. I know a lot of people skip the options section, but I did highlight them because a lot of work has been put into making this game suitable to put in your own home arcade cabinet in a big, big way. So please check out the options if you skipped them earlier. Okay, let's have a look at Galaga. Controls are left and right to move left and right, and spacebar to fire. Okay. Well, straight away I'll say that using a spacebar, especially on a mechanical keyboard to play this, is not great. The spacebar is not that responsive. It is a good keyboard, but I would see, oh boy, I would see that you would really want one of those arcade buttons, you know, those classic plastic hardcore arcade buttons that you could hammer, because, oh boy, because on the spacebar it's not great. And I actually wonder now, having said so much about mounting this in your own arcade machine, how that would work. Perhaps you can just, via Windows, perhaps you can map those, damn it, you can map those controls, because otherwise, if you did have this in an arcade machine, how would you play with your own stick and buttons on the machine? Because the controls only are for mouse and keyboard. Sorry, for keyboard. There's no option to add an Xbox controller or any other form of control at all. But it's a pretty faithful reproduction. It's bright, it's colourful, and I'm just as good as it as ever. Galaga, folks. Now let's take a look at Pacman, which of course needs no introduction. Introduced in Japan in May of 1980, of course, by Namco, and published as usual in the United States later on by Midway. Immensely popular, of course, from its original release, and even to the present day, there are new versions being released. It's had its own TV series. I think it's even had its own top 10 hit. I think it was a top 10 hit. Yes, Pac-Man Fever. That's the one. So the premise is simple. If you're one of the very few people who don't know, the player controls a Pac-Man that you guide through a maze of dots, trying to eat the fruit while avoiding the ghosts, which you can see on screen now. They all have their own names and their own various characteristics also. Again, let's take a very quick look at some of the artwork that is available to view. Again, here we have some original, I reckon, cabinet artwork, and again, the nice rounded edges to replicate that arcade machine look. So let's have a look in settings, display, and these are the banners that are available. I'm going to choose the most colourful one. Again, in sound, you can go through the various different settings for sound. I cover that in a lot more detail in the Dig Dug video, so do check out the options there. Sound test, let's see what we got. The intro tune. The You're in Trouble tune. I know it well. Cool. So let's see how the game looks. Is it original Pac-Man? Here we go. Well, sounds pretty good. Sounds seems more crisp to me. Oh my god, am I going to escape? Come on, I want to get him. Got him. So it's original vanilla Pac-Man. There are lots of other versions you can get, like Championship Edition, Pac-Man 256. I'm not going to escape this. But this is vanilla Pac-Man, and it looks really great. Very enjoyable. Now let's look at Ms. Pac-Man. A lot of people seem to think that this was just a spin-off, and I suppose it is a spin-off, but in fact it was one of the most, in fact, according to Wikipedia, the most successfully produced arcade game in America, selling 115,000 arcade cabinets. So this game is a little different from the others in that the production is kind of reversed. This time the developer is actually Midway, who you'll remember from the previous videos was actually the publisher. This time they're the developer, and Namco actually published the game later on in Japan on the consoles, I believe. forgive me if I get that wrong. I'm not a game history channel, but I wanted to make the point that um, Ms. Pac-Man wasn't just some kind of silly little spin-off. It's the most successful selling stand-up arcade machine in America. 115,000 arcade cabinets sold, which is pretty impressive. So the gameplay of Mrs. Pac-Man, it's very similar to the original Pac-Man. You earn points by eating the pellets and by avoiding the ghosts. So just like before, let's take a look at some of the artwork that we can see in the options. Same display options as before, change the background. We get a kind of a colourful, almost inverted colour of the grey. So I think we'll go with the colourful version. In the sound, the usual options. Nice. Great, so let's take a look at how it plays. I've never actually played this, never in the day, back in the day, and never at all actually. So let's see how it feels if it's different. The sounds are funny. The sounds are a little more, well, let's just say they're different. Oh boy. I never concentrate enough on this thing. Ugh. So it plays pretty similar. I think I'm the first camper in Pacman history in that I wait by the thing that turns them into into vulnerable ghosts. I wait by it until they're near me and then use it. Same way I play Overwatch. We have to complete it. Oh god. Oh god. Well, that's game over. Ms. Pacman, folks. What did you think then of this trip down memory lane back to the early 80s? Did you enjoy it? Did it get your nostalgic juices flowing? Were you able to clean those juices up easily? Funny joke. I enjoyed it. I think Namco have done a really good port of these games. I think they have put some cool options in to recreate as close as an experience as you would want to those games in their arcade form. And in fact, I really think that there's some interesting stuff in terms of putting this inside of an arcade cabinet and having it look and sound really like the genuine article. Scrolling through the background, you can see some of the modern interpretations that we have of Pacman, including Pacman 256 and Pacman Championship Editions 2. There's also obviously a version 1 as well, which I am a fan of, designed kind of as a party game with a competitive aspect also. What do you think of the more modern games? Let me know what you think of this video, please. Do come and check out our wonderful community on Google Plus at bit.ly/goodguysgaming, where we're always looking for new folks and new members, that's what she said, to join us in our adventures. So thank you very much. Please do like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. For real, it does.